Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? What we're going to be talking about right now are current events, world news, things that are happening right now, okay? And I've got like three things that I want to discuss, okay? And the first thing that we're going to be talking about is a story that is still developing, all right? Um, Multiple workers sustained injuries after an oil rig caught fire and exploded in Bradley, Oklahoma. The incident was likely caused by a blowback on the rig. Three people were injured, and two were transported to local hospitals with burn injuries. It was not immediately clear how severe the injuries were, though. Additional details about what caused the explosion have not yet been released. The area has been secured, though, and authorities are conducting a thorough investigation to determine the exact cause. I do have some video footage that I want to share with you. Okay, so let's watch those real quick.
Yeah, guys, I'm here on 2990 Road. We are just north of Highway 19 here in Grady County. Like you said, Evan, you can see this rig is on fire once again, and it just restarted in the last 20 minutes or so. Emergency managers have confirmed that this explosion sent three people to the hospital. Right now, we're still waiting on an update, but here's what we know right now. Grady County Emergency Management says they responded to an explosion at this oil rig just east of the town of Bradley. We know those three people were taken to the hospital for their injuries, but we haven't been given any update on them. This all happening sometime around 2 o'clock this afternoon, and like I said, about 20 minutes ago, the rig caught fire once again. Here's something I noticed. We can't get too close to the oil rig, but we can see through our camera lens that there's a truck by that main tower that burned as well. Fire crews are still all over the property hosing things down as we speak. Now, we're still waiting to hear from emergency managers. Clearly, this is still an ongoing scene, and we're still waiting on an update on those three that were injured as well. Still no word on what started all this, Evan. We'll send things back to you.
Now, the second thing that I want to talk about is, ladies, um, here's a question for you. How many, and this is a little bit personal, okay? But ladies, for those of us that are still having our monthly friend, okay, even, our family members, our daughters, how many of us still use tampons? All right. Now, according to a new study, tampon use is a potential source of metal exposure. Yes. And the study found that tampons contain metals like arsenic, lead, and mercury. Now, the list of metals included is extensive. It is. It's arsenic, barium, calcium, cadmium, cobalt, chromium, copper, iron, manganese, and that's manganese, mercury, nickel, lead, selenium, um, strontium, vanadium, and zinc. Now, between 52 to 86% of women who menstruate use tampons. And they have cotton or rayon, viscose in them to absorb the menstrual blood. Now, tampons may contain these metals from agricultural or manufacturing processes, which could be absorbed into the vajayjay's highly absorptive tissue. And this results in systematic exposure. Okay. Now, no previous studies have ever measured metals in tampons. Okay. So this is something to keep in mind. All right, ladies. So even gentlemen, if you have to, go to the store for your wife or your daughter or whatever the case may be, keep this in mind. All right. So the third and final thing that we're going to be talking about is happening in Asia. Over the past week, there has been a banking catastrophe that has been unfolding inside of China with 40 banks that are failing and having to be absorbed by other banks. Now, yesterday there's a bank, and I cannot for the life of me pronounce it, so I'll spell it out for you. JIANGXI. Yes, it's a giant, humongous bank, and it went under, causing depositors to storm the bank, demanding their money. Now, China's banking sector is facing a full scale crisis. In just one way, one how are you? In just 1 week, 40 banks disappeared, absorbing into larger institutions. And this bank that I can't pronounce of China went under, further escalating the crises. And China's smaller banks, they're struggling too with bad loans and exposure to the ongoing property crisis. Now, the scope of the problem: some 3,800 such troubled institutions do exist. They have 55 trillion won, or 7.5 trillion American dollars in assets, 13% of the total banking system, and have long been mismanaged, accruing vast amounts of bad loans. Many have lent to real estate developers and local governments, gaining exposure to China's property crisis. In recent years, some have revealed that 40% of their books are made up of non performing loans. So, another bank called, can't pronounce it, JIUJIANG, which is a mid tier lender, recently revealed that its profits might fall by 30% due to poorly performing loans. Now, this rare disclosure highlights the severity of the situation, and the authorities have been pushing for more transparency, if you will. But the true extent of the bad debt problem is still emerging. The four state AMCs created a manage of bad debts are now struggling themselves, with one needing $6.6 billion to bail out. And that was in 2021. So these banks are disappearing, and China's main way of dealing with small, feeble banks and making them disappear. One of the 40 institutions that vanished recently, 36, were in the Liaoning province. That's Liaoning, and they absorbed into a new lender, calling the Liaoning Rural Commercial Bank, which was created as a receptacle for bad banks. Now, since it was set up late in September, 5 other institutions have been established to do similar work with more expected. Now, the root cause, if you will, property sector recession. China's property sector is in a huge, deep recession. Overextended real estate developers and local governments have defaulted on their loans, created a cascade of financial instability. Property prices have plummeted, and construction projects have stalled, further restraining the financial system, kind of like what happened here in the States in 2008 and 2009. So, hidden bad debts, regulatory crackdowns, adding to the complexity. Banks have been using asset management companies to offload toxic loans, creating a facade of stability. Now, these AMCs buy bad loans but avoid taking on the credit tasks, leading up to a buildup of hidden bad debts. Now, the National Administration of Financial Regulation, which is a new banking regulator, okay, has been cracking down on these practices, issuing fines, increasing oversight. So, what's coming next? Well, this regulatory vanishing act will probably pick up pace. S&P Global, which is a rating agency, thinks that it will take about a decade to complete the project, while fewer banks, bigger banks really, are easier to regulate. Combining dozens of bad banks only creates bigger, badder banks. The fact remains that these Chinese economy is in a extended and pretend state, if that makes sense to you. Years of credit fueled growth has finally run its course, and the result will be lower growth for China and a negative impact on the global economy. Slower growth of the Chinese economy will in turn exacerbate their banking problems as well. And this will very likely end in a massive liquidity injections, stimulation of the economy, and investors flocking to harder assets. Yeah. So, anyway, all right, guys. Also, they're probably going to want bail ins, bailouts, whatever the case may be. Kind of like what we're seeing here. All right, guys. That's all for this video. I will see you guys in the next one, okay? You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping. And as always, fearless. Ciao.